chance. No.
Oh,
I bookmarked them, but I haven't had a chance to watch any yet.
yeah. I think you'd be quite amused by the checkmate Lincolnites.
Yeah, I bet. Okay. Yeah, so we are now officially live,
Okay.
streaming on the Brainstorm Facebook page, YouTube channel, and my Twitch. So, yeah, I guess we're going to try and pick another Prager U video.
Low hanging fruit of Prager U.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, shit.
As usual.
What's that?
So you have to give them this. At least they're well produced videos.
Oh,
they're very well produced.
They've got a lot of money. They should be able to produce their videos pretty well. Playlists.
I've seen enough Michael Bay movies to know that just because you have the money doesn't
That's true. Yeah. You don't necessarily make good videos just because you got money.
Yeah. They look flashy, but
all right, 5 minutes, 5-minute videos. Let's look at that playlist. Left or liberal? This one's like an old one, I think, but should we go with their newest one or one of their older ones?
To be honest with you, I don't know. Probably newer one to be probably more topical, I'm guessing.
Right.
Plus, I don't know if I'd be able to comment on anything the left or liberal. I took one of those quiz that was going around about where are you politically. After I was done taking the test, it said I was libertarian. I'm like, that doesn't sound right. No, I'm like,
I guess it depends what you mean by libertarian.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that. Yeah, that's.
Some random geek is watching on YouTube, says, I mean, Michael Bay movies have a lot of money behind them.
See, I'm not the only one that made that joke.
Yeah, that's right. Money in politics. What's the problem? Let's give it a shot.
Well, that might be entertaining.
All right. Old white guy. Looks fun. I love the first comment that I see. This is quite the feat of mental gymnastics. It's much easier to just admit to being pro-bribery. Yeah. Some random geek says, the political compass test. It was fairly accurate for me. The Seriously Wrong podcast just did a bit on, like, an episode on political compasses, and it was pretty interesting. Like, it's hard to pin people down into this box or that box or this box,
Well, I mean, probably unless you're raging one end of the spectrum or the other.
Yeah. But even those people, often they'll have views on a particular issue or another that contradict themselves, right?
Yeah, I guess that's true.
All right. Money in politics.
In my many years in Washington, the most alarming development has been advertised under the soothing title of campaign finance reform. We Americans are disposed to think that the word reform is a synonym for improvement. But what is called campaign finance reform is nothing less than a frontal assault on the first, the most fundamental of our freedoms, the freedom to speak our minds and to participate in politics.
Yeah, this is a pretty standard argument from them. Yeah.
I don't know. The problem is I mean, the statement itself isn't a problem. It's just that when you have an outrageous amount of money, like it's that whole weird argument of what's that famous quote about, corporations are people, my friend, and it's like,
right,
no, they're
right,
not.
yeah, like free speech in this case applies more to the Koch brothers than it does to an average citizen.
Yeah.
Some people, if you can afford it, get more First Amendment right than others.
I mean, there are obviously, we're barely even into this video and we're going to sidetrack it, but I mean, there's been obviously cases where you can spend like obscene, stupid amounts of money and still lose.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, Hillary Clinton spent like the GDP of like 3 different small countries and she still ended up losing. So
I actually just listened to something about that where the conversation was about how ads or propaganda, campaign ads, this kind of thing the more it looks grassroots, the more it looks like it was made in your garage, the more relatable it is and the more it appeals to people. And apparently, I don't watch campaign ads, but apparently with Trump's ads, they looked like low rent, like they were a joke in a lot of ways. A lot of people were making fun of them because they were in 2016 because they looked like they were just made by an amateur person who just was, making ads. And Hillary's were like polished professional ads that really talked about whatever issues. And it's just,
yeah. Well, history's shown that, Hillary, for all of her faults, was professional and Trump was not. So for once, honesty and advertisement, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, this is interesting. This looks like it says it was made in 2014, but I guess whatever.
Yeah.
This assault is always conducted stealthily by people who pretend that they only want to regulate money, not speech. They say they are only concerned about the quantity of money in politics. After the 2012 Romney and Obama campaigns spent combined $2 billion, the usual cry was heard from reformers. They said, there is too much money in politics. Forget the fact that Americans spend $2 billion every spring just on Easter candy, but you must.
Okay, that's not better though, right? I
would question those numbers because there's a lot of money spent on Easter candy, but $2 billion? I don't know about that. But anyway, that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, like it's not even a good comparison. Like, I don't know. Easter candy is not the same as campaign donations. It's just silly.
Yeah. We could stretch it as being just as corrupting, but
sure.
From a dentist point of view, but
But yeah, there's no way that I don't know. It's just a terrible comparison.
Just remember this. People who say there is too much money in politics are necessarily saying 3 very sinister things.
Ooh.
First, they are saying there is too much political speech. Second,
no, that's not true.
They are saying that they know just the right amount of political speech.
That's also not
third,
true.
They are saying that government should enforce the limits they want on the amount of political speech.
No.
That is,
none of those things are true. You can have everybody in your country talking about politics 100% of the time, and you don't have to spend money on advertising.
Yeah, I don't know. It's one of those weird things about politics is they spend billions of dollars so this guy, looks like the schlub next door.
Right.
You know, they put out all these hokey ads about, you know, like, oh, they make fun of them every political cycle, like, especially down in the States. It's not as prevalent up here in Canada because our election cycles are so short.
Yeah.
You know, but you know, there was the one going on about her hog farm or whatever it was a few cycles ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
Meanwhile, you look at how much money they're spending, and it's an obscene amount.
Yeah, that's right. Even in Saskatchewan, our last election, there was a lot of money spent by donors from outside of the province. Even
That's a lot of problem is that the Sask party is run out of Calgary.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, they're basically run by Alberta Oil.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Yeah, some random geek says, just like most anti-feminist arguments, they don't have a good argument. They have to make a straw man position, but they have to make a straw man to argue against. I think that's accurate.
Like I know, because I watch too much Young Turks, and they're really pushing to get money out of politics.
Yeah,
and it just seems to be that I don't know if it's true because you can point to examples where the so and so raised more, but they still lost, and so spent more and they still lost. But there is definitely something to be said that, you know, like these $100 million war chests, they definitely.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the things that they always measure too, is like whoever is making the most money in donations, they favor in, you know, polling and whatnot. They say, oh, well, look how much they've made in this campaign.
Yeah, but that hasn't that also backfired in the last couple cycles?
I think it has a little bit.
Like, I mean, all the examples I'm giving are, and I know way too much about American politics than I probably should, but
yeah. Well, it's been forced on us, so.
Well, it's also, I think, because it's more combative, so it's a little bit more interesting, you know. Even
right.
We have to make up scandals to try to compete with American politics.
Yeah, that's right. I think, wasn't it even like John Oliver, for all his, you know, bias perhaps, it did a really good episode discussing like politicians, and like within their first 2 weeks they have to start making calls to for
I think I saw that one actually, but yeah, that on the States is like a never-ending cycle.
Yeah,
the never-ending election cycle.
Yeah, you get elected and then you got to start pushing for donations so you can have enough, and they have like quotas they have to meet or else they're going to be in trouble. And like, yeah, it's fucked.
It's very, very fucked.
Government should regulate speech about the government. Over the last few decades, reformers have chipped away at the First Amendment guarantee of free speech. They've done it with various and sundry campaign finance laws, such as limiting the amount of money an individual can give to a candidate. But they're no longer satisfied with merely chipping away at the First Amendment. Now they want to take a sledgehammer to it. They admit that what they want, to restrict free speech, is incompatible with the Constitution. So, for the first time in American history, reformers calling themselves progressives are proposing to change the First Amendment in order to empower Congress to decide the quantity, content, and timing of political speech.
I know this was made in 2014, but I don't remember that at all.
No, and I'm just thinking in my head, isn't this all like become almost moot because they got rid of what was that ruling down in the States? Something United, where they basically opened the floodgates to like PAC money and stuff like that. And that they're just like, you know, this was the biggest mistake.
Citizens United. Yep.
Oh, that's it. Yeah, Citizens United.
Yep. Yep.
because they had limits on how much you could donate, and then with Citizens United, they just went, nope.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Might as well just cancel that. Yeah, the whole corporations are people too thing.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's where it's connected.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, now post-Trump, there's probably going to be wanting to do some reforming on that because he's pocketing all that fucking money.
Oh yeah, yeah. It would be funny to see him run again against the Republicans and the Democrats, like as an independent. That would be funny, but we'll see.
Wow, that would take too much damn work.
This new impeachment might stop him from running entirely. So,
well, if they actually do anything with it,
yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, I mean the Democrats are looking like they're really pushing for it, but the Republicans, I mean, they had Rand Paul already. Yeah. And we're totally sidetracking this, but they had Rand Paul already tried to get, what is it? He got 40 some senators saying that to vote that it's an unconstitutional impeachment. When that's bullshit. But
yeah, well, yeah, it's likely that they're just gonna. Well, I guess it's hard to say exactly what's going to happen because there are a few Republicans who even voted in the Congress to move the impeachment into the trial stage.
Yeah, so. and they were trying. Yeah, like Liz Cheney was one of them, and they're trying now. They're voting to try to get her censored. So
yeah. Yeah, some random geek says there needs to be a general fund from the government for campaign and a set amount, something like a salary cap in the NFL.
Yeah, well, that's kind of what happened. That's kind of what Canada has, isn't it? We have something.
Yeah, like each party can pull a certain amount out of the general fund. I'm not sure. I think they can still take donations, but I think there's also like caps and. Although not in Saskatchewan for our provincial elections, there are no donation caps.
Yeah, I think we are like one of the exceptions, I think.
Yeah, that's right. But yeah, even just a cap like would help, right?
Yeah.
And who would benefit from the speech restricting rules Congress would write?
Progressives.
Well, we know this. Every campaign finance law that ever has existed or ever will exist has been or will be written by incumbent legislators. That is, all laws regulating campaigns will favor the re-election of incumbents. Incumbents have enormous electoral advantages stemming from their perquisites of office, name recognition, a catalog of favors done for constituents, and so on. Hence, incumbents generally do not need to spend as much money as their challengers must spend. Hence, incumbents write laws making fundraising more difficult. Those who advocate restricting how much money...
Or they gerrymander the hell out of this.
Yeah, well, that's just it too, right? Like it's not as though the states where Republicans are against this sort of thing and are in charge, it's not like they're not controlling who gets to vote and where and whatnot. Like, I don't know. This is kind of fucked though.
Money is just is the low hanging fruit or top of the pile of the problem.
Yeah, that's right.
We can contribute to candidates or how much money candidates can spend on campaigns always say the same thing. They say, we are only restricting money, and money is not speech.
It's not.
To see how silly this distinction is, consider the following. The New York Times constantly says that money is not speech, and therefore the spending of money can be restricted without restricting freedom of speech. But suppose conservatives controlled Congress and said to the New York Times, we, of course, would never restrict the freedom of the Times to practice journalism, heaven forbid. We are only going to restrict the amount of money the Times can spend on gathering the news and distributing its newspapers, the amount it can spend on journalists, paper, ink, printing presses, delivery trucks, advertisements, and so on. Do you think the New York Times would be content with this? Would the Times say?
Isn't it obviously not a good comparison?
I'm just thinking that's a stretch, because unless you want to compare the business of politics with the business of news, like because the money that's going in is because it's the problem is that it's kind of like comparing the difference. Would be a bigger comparison would be comparing the New York Times to your local newspaper. It's about reach. It's about reach and whatever. So,
yeah. And yet, I mean, I think there's a difference there, right? Like, if, as suggested, one put a cap on what they could spend, or there was a general fund for it, you could even say like federal parties have more money to spend because they're national. Like the New York Times is a national newspaper, even though it's called the New York Times. So they could have more money to spend than a local newspaper. Like, I'm not saying they should be restricting the New York Times, but I think the comparison between politicians and a newspaper or journalism is a false comparison.
Well, I mean, I think the comparison here would be the differences. I think there are similar rules anyway. It's not like I don't know. Like, I don't think I mean, it's a matter of money in politics is buying ads. It's not like GM can go to the New York Times and go, you know what? We're going to pay you this, and all we want you to do is nothing but GM ads, right? Like,
right.
I mean, I don't know if there is rules against that, but I'm pretty sure the New York Times would take their money to a certain extent and then go, you can have the biggest page, but you can't have all the pages.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, I'm not sure if there is a restriction on it, but
I don't know. Yeah. But, and I mean, newspapers, like journalists, news sites, these media sites, they do take money from various sources and then just print like news articles as though like ads as though they are news articles, right? Like we've covered that in the past with pseudoscientific articles that were presented as real things.
Although that's still a case of you're not going to find that very often in like say the New York Times is a little higher up the food chain than
yeah. Although now we're seeing it in like the National Post and stuff.
Yeah, I guess. Money talks and bullshit get printed, but
yeah, that's right. I mean, maybe there should be some level of restriction on how much bullshit they're allowed to print, but I don't know how to do that myself.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, there at one point there used to be things called, like journalism had ethics that they had to follow, but that's been long.
Yeah,
thrown out the window.
It was abandoned.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there used, like, I remember growing up being told that there was supposed to be like truth in advertising, like you could get in trouble for not being honest in your ads, but I don't think that's a thing anymore either. And almost all of these deregulations are a product of the right.
Wow. Thanks, Saint Reagan.
Right. Yeah.
Although I think the thing is you still have to be truthful to a point, but they get to stretch the living shit out of what that means.
Yeah, that's right. Well, that's like, I mean, the bodybuilding or the fitness community is like rampant with that, right? Like, and has been for decades. They got ads in the magazines that people would buy talking about this supplement or that supplement, and they'd present it as though it's like a peer-reviewed paper, or they'd say like this has been peer-reviewed, and then it's like, one paper with three test subjects and no placebo group.
Well, yeah, because the supplements is like a lot of that stuff. It's not regulated as strenuously as other stuff. So.
Yeah.
Which has actually caught people like there's been guys in the UFC that got in problems because they've tainted supplements. So
right, yeah, end up with actual steroids in them and stuff,
or something that tests up similar to steroids. So
right. I guess we're a little far afield, though. We could continue.
Yeah.
That's fine, because you are only regulating our right to spend money, not our right to speak. No, the Times would strenuously object. It would say, money is indispensable for making our speech effective. That is true, and not just for the Times. Without ample money, no congressional candidate can speak to an entire congressional district. And no Senate candidate can communicate to an entire state.
Okay, that's not, you could literally mandate like required amount of time on televisions or
I can't remember exactly how it worked, but at one point there was rules about that, about there had to be equal time for the candidates.
Yeah, like it's ridiculous to say that they couldn't reach everybody in the state if they didn't have enough money. What a joke. What a joke.
And no presidential candidate can make his or her case to our continental nation. Contributing to candidates is one of the most common forms of political participation. So restricting campaign contributions reduces.
They make it look like if I want to go give my donate $5, that's going to be restricted.
Which Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren has proven that's bullshit.
Yeah.
Like how much money did they made on small donations?
Yeah, that's right.
Because they didn't want to be beholden to one of the Koch brothers or what have you, right? They didn't,
that's right. Or some random big company.
Yeah.
But like the image of the guy going to give $1 to his candidate of choice it's just a misrepresentation of what's happening. It's like this is not the same as a corporation giving millions or billions.
Well, I mean, I think the other problem with money in politics that this isn't really touching is the lobbyists. That's the other side of it. Where they're spending billions of dollars for these people to go and, hey, buddy, have a beer. And you know what? You really shouldn't make that law because, I don't like that or whatever. But I mean, which is part of the money in politics problem is the lobbyists as well as just the advertising.
Yeah. And whatever the super PACs and all these fucking crazy bullshit things.
Yeah. Which I think the PACs, I mean, I might be wrong, but I think the PACs are the direct result of that Citizens United.
Oh, it could be. Yeah. I'm not.
Because I think because the PACs became a thing when they got rid of Citizens United, and then there was no longer a cap on how much money you could pool, and hence you have these PACs and super PACs. And
right. Okay.
Reduces participation. The only constitutional way to reduce the amount of money invested in politics is to reduce the role of politics in the distribution of money. If government were not so big.
No. That's not right.
Well, see, the problem here is George Will. The problem is George Will is like old school conservative.
Right.
So, I mean, his ideology is like he'd be the first one to be like, what was it? Reagan said, was it Reagan? I can't remember. Anyway, the famous quote about making government so small you could drown it in a bathtub.
Yeah.
And I think George Will is in that same.
Yeah, for sure. Hey,
in the same, and I could be wrong. Someone could easily point me out being wrong, but I'm pretty sure he's in the same camp.
The only constitutional way to reduce the amount of money invested in politics is to reduce the amount. What is it?
Reduce the role of politics.
If it were not so busy.
Yeah, reduce the role of politics in money. Yeah, it's just that small, like this is where that small government, libertarian, right-wing libertarian thinking is.
To be fair, that used to be the core idea of, well, I was more the Reagan Republicans, where they wanted small government, and which is lower taxes and lower regulation. In reality, it became bullshit, but that's what they were going for. But
yeah, they really wanted to they want their company to be able to do whatever they want without any government interference.
Yeah. And they, and except for things like abortion and
right, yeah.
And then the full weight of the government is fine,
Yeah, it's fine if the government is involved in your personal life. We just don't want them involved in corporate.
Yeah. Well, once again, the difference between what they say as a policy and what they actually do.
Oh yeah, that's.
I mean, Reagan, he, small government, small enough to drown in the bathtub, all that kind of stuff. But didn't he expand his cabinet? I'd have to look that up, but I want to say he did. Cut taxes, but yet exploded this spending in the military. So
yeah.
If government were not so big, if it were not so busy allocating wealth and opportunity to the politically well-connected.
Okay, that part's not wrong.
Yeah, but isn't this guy part of that? Like all these guys on the right. Okay, yeah, I won't say that. Mention that.
Then politics would be less important in our lives, and less money would be spent on it.
Okay, it's foolish to think that politics can ever be less important in our lives, right? They're the ones that distribute the money to build the roads, to fund the schools, to do it's business of governing.
Well, it's that whole neoliberalism that they bought and sold, since 1980 with Reagan and Thatcher.
Right.
Smaller government, personal responsibility, anything you need done, let the corporations do because business is good. And it's all bullshit. It's 40 years and it's later and history's proven it's bullshit.
It's funny because I am not a pro-government person, but we need governance, and governance and politics are part of the system as it is. It's impossible at this point. We have to fundamentally restructure our society in order to get the government out of the day-to-day citizens.
You can't have government out of your unless you shrink it right back down to.
And even then, there's still going to be a system of right. There's still going to be a system of governance where,
unless you shrink it down to the city-states of ancient Greece. But even then, there would be those little city-states have their levels of government.
Yeah, that's right. It's you'd have even say municipalism, where you have your small group of elected officials that just deal with particular things, and then you can have a system where they're totally recallable, and you can reelect, and you can do all the best possible systems, but you're still going to have people involved in the running of society.
Yep.
So, but yeah, where are we? Yeah, there will still be organizations to run things and delegate things, according to some random geek. All right, we're almost done this.
So, the next time someone says we should make government even bigger by giving it the power to regulate speech, Tell that person that what we really need is more speech advocating less government. I'm George Will for Prager University.
And you're a bad person.
Well, I've seen other interviews, and I don't think George Will is particularly bad. He's just
a Prager U, Koch brothers type conservative.
He's an old school 1979, 1981 Republican. Yeah.
Yeah. What else do we got? Do we want to watch another one? We've been on for about 35 minutes.
Yeah, probably not, because just we get into it, we'll probably get sidetracked. So
yeah, that's right.
Because like I said, like with George Will, I don't think he's a bad guy. He's just locked into his own dogma. You know, and like,
which happens.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know how old he is, but I think that's just it. Is he's locked into that dogma, and I mean, I've seen him on other shows, and he was super critical of Trump. So
one of the Lincoln Project Republicans.
Kind of, yeah.
The guys who they didn't like Trump, and they don't want to like be involved in fascism, but they're totally fine with the existence of homeless people as long as they can't see them.
Well, once again, it's that ideology of neoliberalism that I barely understand, but it's that whole idea of, well, they're homeless because they need to they're the party of personal responsibility, but they take no responsibility for anything.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Well, it's a little bit shorter video today, but that's all right.
Yeah.
I should probably turn on my Uber app anyway and start trying to make some more money for the day.
Well, you might make more money tonight just because it's fucking cold out there. So
yeah.
People may not be able to get their cars started, which I'm thinking I'm going to have to pull mine into the yard and plug it in.
Yeah, I'm thinking I might actually plug mine in overnight. I haven't had to plug it in at all since I bought it, but I'm thinking it's probably a good idea too. It's gonna
it might be like
damn cold.
It's going to be damn cold. I already had to pay $2,000 was it last week, week before, because it's so cold, and apparently I let the oil run too low and my timing chain went.
Oh jeez. Yeah.
Which could have been way more expensive than that, but
yeah, I can't afford to be fixing my car. So
yeah, it was one of those things where I went out, I drove it the Monday when it was cold. My engine kind of ran a little rough. I'm just like, it's cold. That'll happen. Then I went to start it the next morning, and it was like, boom, nothing. I'm like, okay, got to ride to work. Cabbed it home, went to boost it, wouldn't take a boost. Okay, so because my battery's in the trunk, so we went, okay, maybe you need a direct to the battery. Nothing. So I got it towed in, and the guy's like, yeah, your timing chain is off. I'm like, awesome. He's like, were you driving it when this happened? I'm like, no, it ran fine the day before, and then it wouldn't start. He's like, well, you might have lucked out because there doesn't seem to be any additional damage. Because usually when the timing chain goes, if you're driving it, that's when all hell breaks loose. Yeah. You do damage to the valves and the camshafts and all that kind of shit. And
because some things stop turning when they're supposed to be turning.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's no good.
Yeah. So I'm blaming that on the super cold. So
yeah. And it's even colder now. Like this is going to be the coldest this next couple of weeks that we've had all winter pretty much. So
because we're like in a polar vortex or some stupid shit.
Yeah. Not a good time to be homeless in Saskatchewan.
No. Although I saw something, was it? I want to say it was Germany. It was like Facebook. So take it with a couple scoops of salt. But apparently they built pods for the homeless.
Okay.
So they're like, okay, and like it's I kind of just glanced at the article, but apparently they're like insulated pods with solar panels on them. So it's like,
Neat.
okay, here's shelter for you. I'm like, that's
cool.
not a bad idea, actually.
Yeah. I just listened to a show where they were talking about I think it was Austin, Texas, homeless advocates got the government or somebody to buy an old hotel so that people could go and live in it that were already homeless.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's pretty cool. Well, it looks like some random geek saw that on Facebook as well. It is from Germany.
Oh, I was right. Okay.
Yeah. So, but yeah, so in Austin, Texas, apparently there is a hotel that was bought by the government where it is now housing some homeless people.
Well, I can't remember. There was a study, wasn't there, somewhere where they said that the amount of money to house the homeless was like, I can't remember. It was like something actually, it's something ridiculously like relatively cheap. Like,
yeah, compared to leaving them on the street, which is actually much more expensive,
and also rounding them up by the police.
Yeah,
and
then there's. I don't know if all prisons or jails are the same, but I recently listened to something again where they said that this one jail, it's $900 per day and night for a person to be stuck there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's a lot of money. Like you could stay at a really fucking nice hotel for $900 a night.
Yep.
Like, holy shit.
$900 a month is actually not bad for rent either. You can rent an okay apartment for $900.
Yeah, if you're a bachelor,
yeah,
that would actually, maybe even a 2-bedroom wouldn't be too far off for that price.
You'd be yeah.
Some random geek says, I also know of Food Not Bombs in Las Vegas with the sidewalk project raised $16K to build 26 homes to house some homeless people. But then the state crushed those homes because the garbage was getting high. Yeah, actually something that were a lot of articles that have been coming out about Saskatoon lately have been about a condo.
I just saw that article. Yeah.
Yeah. That apparently there's a lot of I'm not sure I'm happy with the way that the articles are framed because it seems almost like they're just saying like, this is a problem and these are the things that these people need to like these tenants, these paying owners have to deal with, instead of like, well, where are these problems coming from? What's the root of this? And like maybe I can't expect that of a Saskatchewan CBC, but
yeah, I read that. I kind of glanced over that article where the guy had bought his condo, and then when he bought it, it was mostly people actually had the other condos. They were living there, and then they've moved out, and then they started renting them. Yeah. And then it's gone to shit since then. So
yeah, apparently there's one person who owns like 20 units in the building and rents them out.
Yeah.
And they're blaming this person because I'm not entirely sure what the connection is there, except that they're not doing enough screening or something for their tenants. But also, I don't know. It sounded a lot like blaming an issue that has many roots on just saying like, oh, this is a bad thing. The police have been there many times.
Well, they were saying like there was like needles and shit everywhere, and
there was a flood or something when there was a fire. So then, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't want to be an owner there either. It sounds like it's a nightmare, but also also I prefer to think of things in a way where, like, why are people in the halls shooting up? Like, why are these needles here? Where did they come from? Who needs help? How can we fix this in in a broader spectrum?
Yeah.
Like, why are we? You can't fix this building without giving the people who are shooting up in the hallway a place to go.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, that's why they argue for. I don't know if that's a solution or not, but that's why they're arguing for like safe injection sites and whatever else. So.
Yeah, and actually, I guess Saskatoon has like a safe injection site, like a
I think
safe.
I read that. I think I read that too. Yeah, I think I read that.
So it's a matter of I guess making sure people have access or whatever. I'm not sure. Maybe there needs to be more. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It's when you're starting to deal with people doing hard drugs like that. I don't know what the solution is because.
I know.
Pick your poison, and it all goes bad.
I know at this point, like criminalizing them doesn't work.
No.
So it needs to be something other than that, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, prohibition has clearly never worked.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what the solution is, but like shooting junk in your veins isn't a good thing, And you can't be a totally happy person if you're sitting there,
you wouldn't
mainlining shit, But
yeah, there's a reason that people are become addicts, right?
Usually about 3 or 4 different layers of why that happens. I mean, some of it is biological, some of it, and then other factors. So
yep, that's right. But okay, that's the last thing we're going to talk about.
Totally off topics.
Yeah. Thank you, Some Random Geek, for hanging out with us. I think you and one other person are the only people that have been watching. So really appreciate it, and have a good night, everybody.